I'm saying, and approached on that way. Sean's Love collapses basic lore. I don't remember you being in here for that, but I guess Drake looks bad in that photo. Laugh my ass off. I don't know why he was on this time and on this day, but you know what? It's okay. Excuse me. Joe Budden reveals DMs from Drake. Take a chill pill, Anthony. Have a drink. Throw on some instrumentals. Maybe write one of those fellas. Do your thing. Let me do my thing. Joints for old time's sake. A little radio play would do you some good. Papa? Papa not crazy? Papa is crazy. What do you mean by this? And if this is what you DM'd, bro, then why'd you have that, like, public spat? Like, why'd you say what you said publicly and then, like, privately you being, like, kind of cordial? Papa is insane, don't get me wrong, but, like, why'd you even type that message out if this was the type of time you were truly on? Because you bringing up my friends in the like you know anything about that. Okay, so the quote wasn't over. Keep it music. Now, this is true. I was thinking about this the other day. Not really. I just thought about it just now. I just lied to y'all. But I was thinking about it just now. If there's at any point where Joe Budden and people have accused somebody like academics of doing this in the past too, bringing up people's personal business while they're talking about their music, if you're not going to keep it music, then don't be surprised if another nigga come around and not keep it music. Okay? On that front, I agree if that's what happened. But there are examples, like I said, of Drake coming at people who did just keep it music. So maybe it fits here, but in other instances, we see that it didn't fit. So it is what it is. I don't give a what you listen to in your free time, because the people's opinion I care about don't have free time. That's cap. Literally. I also don't care if you like or dislike something, but talk about my life and like you trying to plant some seed or paint some narrative and turn people against me. I mean, it wouldn't be easy to do that if you made better music and put effort into your shit, man. Like, I'm gonna be honest. There's a vid. Did he read the whole thing, or am I don't know, bro. Hold on. I also don't care if you like blah, blah, blah. Talk about the music. If you hate it, you hate it. But you talking about I'm out here fucking 25-year-old. You said that. He said that on the record. What do you mean you out here talking about that? Not only are you talking about you fucking 25-year-olds, you said it. And this is where I noticed my downhill spiral when listening to Drake. Cause this nigga got on a song talking about him fucking with 20-year-old at the time Georgia Smith when he was in his early to mid 30s, and he made a song about that. You've been talking about this for years. That's not a narrative. That's coming from your mouth. You said that. And that's exactly when I started to get disgusted with Drake. When he made that song talking about, oh, I could have changed you. You're still a baby. You creepy ass nigga. Disgusting. I've always hated Jaded because of that reason. Always. That song will never get played for me. It's literally Drake's R. Kelly biggest revelation moment. Completely. You are the one that made music about fucking girls that are like 15 years younger than you. Nobody else had to make a narrative about that. What? That shit feels malicious to me, and I don't do well with that. You said it. Your nerd co-host?
Sorry,
what are we
Sean,
talking
could
about?
you repeat what you said to my teaser, Dono? There was an ad and it ran 6 of
Sounds
them.
crazy.
There was a what? I'm not repeating all that. That was crazy. Your nerd co-host can sit and talk about your gangster. Wait, talk about gangster this and that, but you know how we get down, so keep it journalistic, jabronis. Bro, you know how we get down, and then calling a nigga jabroni after? Like, even if you are like that, you are not gonna get nobody to take you seriously saying that, bro. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing here, bro? What? This is just convincing me that this nigga don't pay attention to what he be saying in his own music. You really don't care. You really don't care what you be saying for real. Because if you did, you would not be coming at other people for talking about what you say in your own songs. Actually unhinged. That's actually unhinged. That has to be a troll. But yeah, I'm here. I'm here to see what bro got to say. I am. And after that, then we gonna get off Drake, and we're probably gonna go right into scary mode, scary hours, no EP.
Long-time viewers of the channel will know that I am an OG not enjoyer of Drake. It's important to me to make it clear, though, that my lack of appreciation for Drake has never really been that much about Drake. It's mostly been about what Drake represents for hip-hop and, you know, art in general. I'm not the guy that was like, oh, Drake is soft and Drake is light-skinned and all those things. That criticism has been very shallow, in my opinion, one of the reasons why it's hard to make good critiques about.
I agree with that. And I also think that him being on the quote-unquote what people would say in the beginning of his career, stereotypically soft side, is what gave appeal and more, you know, eyes to his music, because it was a little, I don't want to call it edgy, but it was a little different, you know, for his time, from a mainstream perspective, from a more popularized perspective.
About Drake, because you end up being joined with dudes that clearly have no analytical basis for critiquing another dude other than calling him gay. But that's not what we do here on the B-sides, even if it's light work. So I want to be clear. Drake is bad because his music is boring and unchallenging, and for my sensibilities, that's not what hip-hop is supposed to be. That said, Drake's recent album, For All the Dogs, has me feeling differently, not necessarily appreciating the music a whole lot more, although I'll get to that, but thinking about Drake's experience and his unique position in hip-hop culture differently than I have up until this point. So Drake came out with For All the Dogs, his 11 billionth studio album. Drake just drops albums every year and makes it seem like they're a big deal, like NFTs at this point.
That's literally why I respond with this lack of care every single time I see a Drake rollout, and people respond to me by saying, oh, well, you say this about Drake, what about Future? When does Future? And act like I just, like, I revel and I just sit here and just like wait, and I'm just like holding myself at night. I'm holding myself at night waiting for Future to drop the next little single where he can diss Sierra. It's just like,
then trying to make a better album or song.
Future never comes off, even if he is super immature, and I know he's a toxic person, he's probably a horrible person, but he don't come off as bitter and as self-absorbed and as much of a prima donna. Listening to Drake unironically try to convince people that he's the hardest out, but I should also feel bad for you because you can't find a girlfriend and one your own age, is just crazy. It's crazy. I'm not doing that, man. I don't care.
It just is what it is. For the record, this new record is probably one of my favorites of his in a while. To me, it's the most interesting thing that he's made since Nothing Was the Same almost 10 years ago.
Wait.
I think glimpse.
Huh?
Record is probably one of my favorites. It just is what it is. For the record, this new record is probably one of my favorites of his in a while. To me, it's the most interesting thing that he's made since Nothing Was the Same almost 10 years ago. Because it's
the most interesting. Let me think about that. Well, I'm reflecting on after you've listened to the music. Most interesting, I would say, would be 2 years after Nothing Was the Same. As far as most interesting, biggest rollout and most successful rollout is definitely Views. Definitely Views.
Don't you think Drake on his old head run like Ice Cube and Snoop Dogg?
No, because even their old head run was better, more tolerable. But I don't want people to get it twisted, because Ice Cube had a horrible run for a couple years where he went on this like super extra conservative bootstrap mentality for like 3-4 albums straight, past like some of his best material, some of his best work. Like, people just have like a revisionist type of history, or they stopped listening to these people at their peak and then just forgot everything that they dropped after a certain point. So I don't want people to think like, oh yeah, all these other people are just that much better than Drake. It's just that Drake is the like recency bias topic that we're talking about right now. Other people have had like a shitty run too.
It's the first, I think, glimpse into the real Drake that we've had in that entire time. Go and watch my full video.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not still on it, but like that run specifically after he had his best is what people tend to forget.
Breaking down a lot of my issues with Drake for the entirety of this take. But the short version that's important for us to understand here is that Drake started out with a deep desire to be loved and accepted by hip hop culture and the industry as a whole, and was regularly aggressively rejected by hip hop for a long time until he was basically undeniable. By the time he made Nothing Was the Same, he was finally really starting to become a prominent figure in hip hop culture. But it's also the same time that he seemed to stop caring about a culture that didn't really fully embrace him. But against all odds, from that moment on,
I think where he fully stopped caring was If You're Reading This Is Too Late, though. But there was definitely a lot of passion. Like, Nothing Was the Same might actually be, if I think about it, Drake's best. Because when I'm thinking about Take Care, there is a sense of thirst for approval on that record, but Nothing Was the Same was like a mixture of passion, acceptance of who I am, and also rejection of what you want me to be. If You're Reading This Is Too Late was really like, fuck all y'all niggas. But Nothing Was the Same, now that I go back, it's like that might actually be like the, you know, that's like that peak, like that number one, that pinnacle. Like that might be his actual best. I've never really thought about what his best would be, only about like what albums are classic or not to me. But I never really sat down and been like, oh yeah, like this is solidified 100% his best work.
Has the power and clout to dictate the entirety of what hip hop culture was to a significant degree. And with that power and clout, he basically set himself to make mostly disposable, often very catchy pop rap that he put minimal effort into as an artist. This is why, although again, there are a few great songs and tons of great lines, almost everything that Drake has put out over the last 10 years has been interchangeable with whatever else he's put out, except for when he randomly decides to colonize a whole genre. You could play songs off of Chocolate Lover Boy and Scorpion and parts.
There's no way that was an accident. There's no way you call Drake Chocolate Lover Boy by accident. Absolutely no way that was an accident. I don't believe it.
So this last album off of Chocolate Lover Boy and Scorpion and parts of this last album, and an average person couldn't tell you which Drake album that came from. There has been no reason for Drake to stretch himself any further as an artist, and it's kind of obvious that he maybe couldn't, or at least there's no reason for him to actually want to. And for a while, I think this was fine. But in the past few years, it seems like the vibe around Drake has started to shift. Drake was never truly celebrated by the culture like the true icons of hip hop, but he was definitely beloved by the machine. And with the machine on his side, he was always in the mix. He made sure to stay relevant and have his finger on the pulse of all the trends, and combined with
and I agree with him on this, and I'm also not saying that Drake wasn't rejected, but to a point where I think the fan base is like, I think they feel like in their mind, like Drake is so listened to because he's that good. When in reality, like the reason we give Kanye the flowers that he might get outside of his, shoddy record when it comes to marketing and the shit that he says outside and even within a lot of his music, Kanye has earned that level of his music finding you because of how much effort and work he's put into reinventing himself and adding to the wheel of music overall, especially hip hop culture. Basically since his infancy, like he's done the work completely. No one's given Drake that same level of leg room or that wiggle room because that effort has never been there. He's never needed to. And like he said, there's no incentive to when his fan base is giving him the praise and the notoriety and the respect equivalent to what the people who would give Kanye his level of respect are. Just Drake hasn't put in, to me, that level of effort into reinventing himself, adding to culture. He's only taken from it, in my opinion. I'm not saying that Drake's a culture vulture because of that, but he's only taken from the best of the most recent styles and added it to his own to try to make something more popular, and he benefits from it 9 times out of 10. The people that he takes from don't end up benefiting from it, generally speaking. There are examples, obviously, but long-term wise, like where's Block Boy JB, for example? Like a lot of the people that he ends up hopping on, like they don't really have the benefit that he does, generally speaking.
Genuine talent as a hit maker and his clout, he was still very much loved and revered as a whole, regardless of where that love really came from. He had a very ardent fan base among black women, and of course his own army of stans. But now it seems like even those communities are shrinking. Black women began to write him off after his nice guy act started to lean into nice guy misogyny, starting maybe with...
And it's always been misogyny with Drake, though. He covered it a lot with that nice guy persona, but when you look at it, and you go back into his lyrics, he's always been on this type of time. He's never hit this if you actually pay attention to what he's saying. He might have said it in a cleaner way, but he's always been on this.
His petty and semi-creepy behavior toward Rihanna, as well as numerous instances of questionable behavior.
What's his best, one of his best songs? Wait. I think it's Shot For Me. Bitch, I'm the man. I know that you can see. I know you're going to hear this. I'm the man. Yeah, I said it. The way you walk, that's me. The way you talk, like I gave you all of this shit. Like he basically been on this. It sounded better back then because he was in his early 20s. It was reasonable for him to be a prima donna and think that the world revolved around him and everything like that. It was reasonable back then because you were growing. But I don't think you should still be on this.
Toward other young women, which has now graduated into overt antagonism toward the likes of Meg Thee Stallion and Esperanza Spalding. And many of his fans have gotten tired of his formulaic music, proclaiming several of his recent records to be mid at best. Now, heading into his late 30s, Drake's fans that were screaming YOLO with him 10-15 years ago are maturing and moving on to different phases of their lives and different perspectives on the world around them. And it feels like they're having to leave Drake behind. And for me, ironically, this is actually the most interesting thing.
I'm glad he said that. I was gonna make a video about this. I don't know if I'm still gonna do it. But I literally was gonna make a video with the title of it being "We Need to Leave Drake Behind." Literally, that was gonna be what it was, or leaving Drake behind by itself.
About Drake right now. Drake,
because I'm no longer I've already said this, I'm not disappointed in Drake. I expected this
for a while.
By the way, Sean
tried to make himself out to
Joe
be the
goes in on how Drake talks to young girls and how he talks to M on the new album, like a lyrical breakdown.
Yeah,
it's very damning. Lol, someone find the clip.
100%.
Good guy.
I agree. I've been having this conundrum and this weird feeling about Drake for like since that Georgia Smith song like 5-6 years ago almost.
Drake beefing with Joe is like in 2017 with M with Revival with Joe. But M took all his emotions and frustrations to the music while Drake is crying and complaining than trying to make better music. Drake is the John Cena of rap over Push and Op.
See, the thing is though, I could give you that. I could give Eminem that level of credit at least. I could. You know, he just take it straight to the booth. He don't be making no tweets, not under anybody's post. From what I know, I'm sure somebody can give me an example, but at the very least, he keeping music.
To still see himself as that put upon and ostracized and bullied figure that no one loved and respected at the beginning of his career. But now that he's gotten so far into his career, he's still complaining about being hated, and it just comes off pretty shitty. It doesn't help that he has some bars on his album.
I kind of agree and disagree. I mean, Drake has taken a lot and benefited from it. But he's also helped a lot of people out. He put on Giveon, gave Lil Baby his biggest songs. Travis' biggest song is because of him. Like his features have helped a lot.
I would say that Drake was a part of a huge moment, and he definitely added to what is one of Travis Scott's best songs. But don't get it fucked up and think that Travis Scott would not have come out with a Sicko Mode without Drake. Because he's definitely done... at least the people that Travis Scott has worked with, a Sicko Mode moment, maybe not Sicko Mode itself, but a moment as big as Sicko Mode would have definitely happened without a Drake, 100%, whether he was on that song or not. I do think that he does and has contributed to artists. I'm not saying that he hasn't, but as I said before, generally speaking, he doesn't move the needle or start those trends that end up being adopted in the hip hop. He's usually the taker of them, which is why, like I said on the Yeet song, he sounds like a Yeet reference for a song that Yeet could have easily made by himself, which a lot of y'all told me after the fact he did make the song by himself. Drake just added a verse. His flow on there, very reminiscent BK Tarula. Like these ideas, like there aren't original ideas and concepts coming from Drake, which is why people keep begging for him to reinvent himself, because they don't want him to, I guess, his music catalog to basically drive itself into the ground due to stagnation and lack of ideas. Like at that point, when someone's begging for reinvention, that means that that you've given them the same thing for too long. You're too predictable. We know what you're going to do next. That's it. Not just because you need to do it. Oh, obviously your formula is working, so keep doing it. Like, nah, like it's becoming worse and worse and worse. That's really it.
That are straight up.
Just like Nappy just said, he's been attaching himself to moments. That's a crazy name, but he's been attaching himself to moments, and the moments happen with or without Drake.
like a 17-year-old suburban edgelord's rhyme book, there's still great lines and bars on this album, which Drake has always been capable of.
We can't forget about the Drake
but there's
stimulus
tons
package,
of cringe.
putting
For
little artists on the map. PND, Majid Jordan,
is
the
trash.
Camp,
Majid,
and the other
the
artists he
OVO
put
camp,
on.
it literally, even if you go to OVO, there's nobody that's decent on OVO. You go to the top quote unquote threes shit, J. Cole got a myriad of talented artists on his roster. Are they all big? Are they all amazing?
Creative, which is
they might not all be big.
as one of the supposed
but you
big
look
three.
at not too much on. Dog, I'm sorry. There's nobody good on OVO, bro, at all. I could give P&D his flowers, but a lot of people, and I can see that too, have referenced the Young Thug emulation in a lot of P&D's music, especially with those Colors EPs that he dropped. I'm not tweaking at all. I would love for this to be different, and I love what P&D did earlier on. The P&D's earlier P&Ds and shit, it was great, magnificent, spectacular. I'm not taking that away from them. But with or without Drake,
overrated to a fairly high degree.
With or without Drake, P&D would have still been P&D. You cannot sit here and tell me that the sound of P&D's music would not have been the sound of P&D's music without Drake.
A reminder: Drake signed Smiley.
It's only that way because of Drake. It's only that way because of Drake. Even early Weeknd, people saying the same thing. Weeknd was still the Weeknd without Drake. P&D would have been P&D without Drake. That's cool. Don't get me wrong. That's cool. Is Division OVO? I don't even know if that's his name, to be honest. My fault.
Whatever happened to Back and Not Nice?
Chill, bro. Chill.
Example, could tell I'm getting under your skin like an orange peel, because your words don't match your actions like a foreign film.
I like that line, I'm not gonna lie.
Next month is going down like timber. Feel like I'm by because you're...
Meanwhile, JID took a large jump in quality after J. Cole. JID is making music that's akin to some of J. Cole's best ever. I would argue Jid's best album is better than J. Cole's best album. And Cole ain't do nothing but put a dude on who he thought was talented. Nobody like that is ever coming out of Drake's camp. That's not crazy at all. And I think J. Cole wants that. Don't get me wrong. J. Cole, to me, is not threatened by that. He wants that, 100%. I don't feel the same way about Drake. I don't.
One of the guys, girl. And most significantly, you got my mind in a terrible place. Whipped and changed
that was crazy.
Like American slaves.
This was crazy.
That's some good cringe. But the real cringe seems to be about the way
crazy.
that Drake sees himself in terms of the level of respect he's getting and his own love life. Without rehashing the whole record, if you look at songs like Calling for You, Bahamas Promises, Amen, etc., you have Drake doing his usual complaints about not being able to find love, but it's so unabashedly sleazy and unlikable pretty much the whole time that it becomes actually interesting to watch because it's like a train wreck. It's something you've never seen before. Imagine if one of the worst people you know made an album where they dead seriously set themselves to complain about the consequences of their own toxic behavior.
Literally.
And bad decisions. We don't usually get stuff like that. People usually swear that their ex is the problem or a narcissist. Everyone makes themselves out to be the victim of the bad things in their life, of the bad relationships they've been in. I've never heard a 36-year-old man complain that their 25-year-old girlfriend that they got by spending money on.
Literally. Same shit. Literally.
And taking them to nice trips is too shallow and materialistic and can't cook. Like, you don't hear people say stuff like that with a straight face. And this is where I think I got my epiphany that Drake is what happens when the bitter, frustrated, bullied dork actually gets that glow up experience that...
Wait. Who did I say this about? Who did I say was hip hop's Jaleel White? Or yeah, who did I say that? I said that about Jack Harlow, but I think I said that about Drake too.
All bullied, put upon dorks imagine in their quiet moments. Except in Drake's case, there's never been an opportunity to unpack or own.
Drake had a glow down, nigga just...
the like lasting trauma and flaws and issues that came from that type of experience, because Drake has been shielded from maturing by money and success and fame and clout and power. For those who weren't there or may not have been paying attention, before Drake was Champagne Poppy, he was Jimmy Brooks, a side character in Degrassi Junior High, a tween drama that mostly aired in Canada. And before, during, and after that, he was Aubrey Drake Graham, a talented but incredibly uncharismatic, kind of gawky looking and clearly dorky, try-hard wannabe rapper from Canada, who in any other era of hip hop would never have been given the chance to make any waves, let alone become
damn nigga chill,
a prominent or even dominant artist in hip hop culture. Again, go watch the full video for the full breakdown. It's clear Drake is still Jimmy Brooks. He's still Aubrey. He's still a dork. He's a cornball. And I say that as a dude who is also still a dork and a cornball. Corn, recognize corn.
Okay, but everybody's corny. I don't get mad at people for being corny because everybody got a little corn in their discog in life. I guess it's when you're able to or allowed to go through your whole like regime, your marketing tactics, and like your whole career of people saying that that's nothing that could ever be attached to you, while also admitting everything that makes you that.
Off, Dreamville, TDE, and any other label is miles better is OVO.
Yeah, I agree. I've had that thought about OVO though for a long time though. When we compared TDE and OVO and what the fuck Dreamville. Though I think J. Cole is the best out of everybody. I don't think Kendrick's had enough time to really develop PG Lang yet. But J. Cole has been definitely I'm not saying pioneer, but definitely like the horsepower, I guess, whatever you want to call it, on like having his own label and it being successful outside of just his name, and the artists on said label being like dominators, at least from a talent wise perspective. Ari Lennox is doing really good work. She came out with a great album last year. JID, same case. Boz, I think a lot of people are still listening to him and anticipating his work. Kaz isn't bad. I think Loot is on there as well. And did Baby Rose sign to Dreamville too? Or am I tripping? Earth Gang 2. I don't think Baby Rose is on Dreamville. I think she just featured on that one project. She's not on Dreamville. You fuck with Loot? All
Your
those
favorite
artists
slash
suck,
best
please
rapper is secretly
stop.
a nerd. You have to be a nerd for music to a certain extent to be good or the best. Honestly, rappers just hide the nerd under a bunch of chains for real.
No, a bunch of rappers aren't nerds for real. You could tell by the music that they make.
Like that one Dono said, Drake with Thesis Eminem are bars on his album. I swear Thesis lines is something M would say. He is for sure under that revival spectrum spell. It's up for him.
Yeah, but even Eminem is cringe, but like it's a type of cringe that I don't feel is dangerous. It's not masked by anything trying to be something I feel personally bigger or like more advanced than it actually is. Like he's literally just trying to make people believe that he's the best rapper and that's it. With Drake, he's actually trying to hide how big of a piece of shit he puts himself out there to be on his music and try to convince people to feel bad or empathetic for his lifestyle. It's like, bruh, I can see you. I'm listening to what you're saying, bro. Like, you're not fooling anyone. He made Tom
Why
McDonald's.
is my goat getting cooked? I thought you liked Drake.
Okay. I do like Drake. I like Drake's past music. Current Drake, no, I don't like. I don't like current Drake.
Eminem is cringe, but he's genuine.
Yeah, what you see is what you
Drake
get, I feel like, with him.
We can see you, my guy.
With Eminem, I feel like what you see is what you get. Is genuinely just a respect thing. I want to be the best. I am the best. And that's it. I don't know what Drake on, to be honest with you.
Like those ostracized outsiders, Drake clearly desired not just acceptance in the culture that he had his eye on, but glory in the eyes who shunned him. Drake loved hip hop and was a fan of the pure, highly respected, street credible rappers in the game at the time when he was coming up. This is what makes his clapback to Joe Budden, who was a mid-2000s hardcore lyricist that's now a podcaster, so funny. Because Drake jokes that Joe Budden wasn't successful and quit hip-hop because he couldn't make any money out of it, despite the fact that he was highly respected for his lyrical prowess. Drake said that Joe Budden would do shows with only 450 dudes, all wearing baggy NYC jeans and some other funny roast. But clearly doesn't think about the fact that if Joe Budden would have did a show back in those early 2000s, Drake would have been the type of dude to go there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
Before becoming the biggest rapper in the world over the last decade, Drake was constantly disrespected, joked about, called soft.
And I don't want to, you don't want to forget who you are. I don't want, like, you can grow, and this is where I say to people that like have an issue with people growing, and it's like they see slight differences in a person. They're like, oh, you changed, I don't like this. There's nothing wrong with growth, but you shouldn't allow that to convince you to believe that at your core you're not who you always have been. You know what I mean? Like, with certain people that move a certain way, they're like, oh, I see all this stuff happening on the internet, I'm gonna start carrying a gun with me because I saw this thing happen to this person. It's like, my boy, you don't know anybody around your community that even moves like that. You have zero to worry about, and you've allowed this, online thing, some shit that you invest a lot of time into, to convince you that you at your core is the type of person that would end somebody's life in a situation that doesn't cause for it. Like, that happens a lot, and people forget like who they naturally are. I think Vince Staples said this not long ago. He's like, oh, rappers living in gated communities and shit like that, like, nobody's looking for you, nobody's asking about you, they don't care where you live, nobody's trying to rob you, bro. Like, you're not one of those. It's okay. You're not one of those. Nobody's checking for you, nobody's looking for you, nobody's on your heels. And I feel like Drake has convinced himself a lot more than is necessary that he's just like this entity that the world is against, and he has to present himself in this way for some type of defense. For a while, at least me, I just only cared about the music. I've only cared about, hey, bro, it's okay for you to be soft. That's who you presented yourself to be in the beginning. Why are you doing the gangster persona? Why are you doing the other shit? I disagree with that. If you got money, niggas will ask about you. No, they won't. No, they won't. A lot of the time, if you staying out the way and you're not making that rah-rah shit, niggas will not bother you. They won't. On God. A lot of people just have it in their mind and convinced that, like, this is the type of shit that niggas are on. Now, don't get it twisted. If a nigga see an opportunity or he see a lick or something like that, not saying he won't jump on that, but a nigga who's never had issues a day in his entire life, never had problems with nobody, makes square kind of music, and you know what I mean by that, move into a gated community with extra hyper security, with laser beams pointed at the mailman for coming up delivering a package. Like, that's not happening to you, brother. That's not happening to you. You know what I mean by square music. You know what I mean by that.
Gay, spit on, and literally slapped by Puff Daddy one time in public. Drake wanted acceptance and respect in the hip hop world like Joe Budden had, and did not get it. But you got to give him credit. He persevered and eventually made it to the top without the approval of the culture. Although there's a whole other set of problems with how that happened.
I'm just assuming that Diddy story isn't true. But everybody always says it happened. I've never actually looked into it or anything like that.
And now at the top, after all he went through to get there, from what I can get from Drake's music and petty behavior, he doesn't seem to feel any different about himself. He doesn't seem to have learned anything through that experience. He hasn't grown at all musically, and probably not personally. He comes off just as awkward and oblivious and insecure. And it doesn't help that his song and lyrics complaining about bad girlfriends and haters all the time just makes it sound even goofier. Drake rapping about being hated and put upon and bullied made sense in 2012 and 2011 when he was still hip hop's underdog. But now it just sounds like a dude that doesn't know what's going on around him. The irony is that even with the level of success that Drake has had and the money that he's made and the women that he's been with, I think he would trade positions with Joe Budden in a heartbeat, if not just to get that respect that he still doesn't have. That was the main reason why he became a rapper in the first place.
I wouldn't say that he would trade with Joe. I think Drake might have gotten to a point where he's not satisfied. Like you ever heard this? I don't think it's a saying, but you like you've heard certain people say like when you get what you finally want, it's not what you thought it would be. And like all these things that you're striving for, there's still some lack of satisfaction. I don't know what would give Drake his final like this is it moment. Like I got everything I need. I don't need to act like this no more. I don't know what he would need to get in order for him to alter paths or change his trajectory. But I doubt it's the respect. I doubt it's the respect. He's been acknowledged by almost every person that hails some of their best MCs at the top spots. Even if he's not in that top spot, he's done features with everybody that I think he's had a massive level of respect for. He's been acknowledged by them in some capacity. Like, in terms of respect and acknowledgement, like, Drake doesn't have anything left to do, I would say. Everybody's acknowledged him at this point, right? And an ambiguously black wife is crazy. A woman, I guess. I think it's the respect.
I think Drake realizes he's missing the genuine experiences and upbringing that garners respect in the community. He's painting a facade that's slowly falling apart in real time. But he's solidified, so it doesn't matter.
But he's never had a facade. He's always just been... I agree with you too. But he's always been this person. Like, I never saw a line, at least in my mind, where it's like Drake's putting himself in a position of like this broke down, got it out the mud ass nigga. At least that never came off to me. He's definitely had a facade. What's been the facade with Drake? Be honest, at one point he was acting Jamaican. I won't say he was acting Jamaican, but he was using the, you know what I'm saying, whole accent shit. Like, I get that, but like, nice guy? I don't think nice guy either. I'm being for real. I'm honestly asking you. I'm asking you, because this has never been a joke to me. I've never looked at Drake and was like, oh yeah, he cap on that. It's just become more and more alarming through the years and as he's gotten older, but I never looked at his music and was like, nah, that's cap. He acted like he had ops. I mean, to Drake, I'm sure Kanye and his entourage were ops. I'm sure that's all he was painting. Gangster facade. I don't know if anybody ever really took the gangster shit serious from Drake. The mob shit is hella cap. Drake can pay people to get you out the way. Drake can pay people to get you out the way. I'm sorry. I don't think he would do it, but he could.
Drake got personality disorders. 1 minute he's a thug, the next a UK guy.
You act like there ain't UK thugs. But not saying that he's one of them. I'm just saying you act like it ain't UK thugs. Drake is wealthy, not rich. He changes his facade every album cycle. He acted like he had mob ties one year. He then acted Caribbean, and now he's Latino. First of all, he's not Latino. He's not Caribbean. He emulates styles and cultures that I think it's embarrassingly bad, and you might as well go to the original people that music is typically made by. But I don't think those are personas or facades. I just think that it's, if anything, him attaching himself to some shit that he thinks is cool because he's not. But I think it's just so obvious to see through that it's impossible to look at that as a facade. As far as personality is concerned, is what I'm asking about, generally speaking. I can't look at what he's doing and be like, yeah, this has been capped this whole time. If I could take Shot For Me, a track that Drake made back in 2011, 2010, and compare it to some shit that he's saying now in almost 2024, that's consistency. To me, what happened is just as he said in his video, as FD Signifier said, I've grown up. Drake's audience has grown up. The people that have been paying attention to Drake have grown up. And now we're noticing he been saying this for that long? Is there something wrong with this nigga? And now that we're all saying, is there something wrong with this nigga? Now people are putting it out there like, or at least his fans are putting it out there like it's something wrong with us for seeing that.
Let the Jamaicans, Brits and Mexicans handle the rest.
That's so
I
crazy.
never want to hear him hop on their songs again. That Bad Bunny song was trash.
That Bad Bunny song is bad, bro. That Bad Bunny song is crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
And I don't even like Joe Budden. I don't like his music. I don't like his pot. To me, this is what happens when you have that loser outcast experience and you only externalize it and never process or seek to grow from it in a more productive way. Like if you take the stereotypical incel fantasy, it's to glow up and do some looks maxing, get a job, or strike it rich with some NFT, Bitcoin dropship.
I actually like how he used the term incel because it's been so devalued over the past couple months, I would say, whenever I see it being used. I like that he said and used it in the context in which he just did, because that means we're still applying it to its correct meaning.
Stuff, and that will make you into the guy you imagine has always been incredibly successful with women and in life, and has never been made to feel how you are often made to feel by the environment or community you're in. But that's not reality, or at least it's not for most people aside from Drake. But it feels like Drake's goals for getting to the top were external. And now, although he's more wealthy and better dressed and better looking, it still seems like internally he feels like a loser, or it's coming across in his music. And maybe
Yeah, I don't think he feels like a loser. He don't know he's a loser.
he has more romantic options, but he's struggling to find fulfillment and value out of those partnerships and out of that success. He still smells of desperation. He still sounds exactly how he sounded in 2010. The lesson here is that without an actual process of working through trauma and pain, it keeps you in that headspace. I want to be clear, I'm not trying to insinuate that people who have been bullied and been victims of community ostracism deserve that treatment and that's what they need to unpack. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is that regardless of why you have experienced mistreatment, you can't just make that your defining core characteristic for how you keep moving through the world. You have to find more than that.
Not gonna basically saying it
gonna
took
be
like
limited
10 albums to actually hear what Drake was saying, but now that I think about, there are a bunch of songs that somehow make you block out the substance of the lyrics. How do people do that? This gotta be science.
I think a lot of the time you just so I don't know. For me, I would say, and I'm probably wrong, that they're so enamored with the luxury and the allure of a Drake that what he's saying oftentimes don't matter. It's just the fact that they're in the club of Drake, you know? Like a lot of people, and I said it before, when they buy the new iPhone, a lot of people don't care about the upgrades and the actual specifications and the metrics and the numbers of the shit that they're buying. They just want to be in that club. And as long as you're in that club, it's satisfaction enough. It's the new shit. That's it. Nothing else matters.
No matter what else you do for the rest of your life. You'll never be able to enjoy any success or progress that you've built for yourself after that treatment ends. You'll end up like Drake, sending mean DMs to Anthony Fantano at 11 o'clock at night just to call him a loser for not liking your music. Yes, this is a real thing that Drake did.
And I still can't believe that he didn't just like that. Like Fantano gave you such an easy out. You could have just let him rock out with the fake cookie recipe shit and just kept it moving. You got baited into throwing your own DMs out there and thought it was cool.
I genuinely feel bad for how Drake was treated when he entered the game. Again, you have to have been there. It was like there's a kid that gets bullied at the popular lunch table, but that kid comes back to that lunch table every day to get the same treatment, except the lunch table is hip hop radio and the hip hop blogosphere.
Except the lunch table is getting smaller and smaller because niggas starting to not give a fuck no more. And then Drake just keeps going back to the same table with more and more material this time, thinking that he won't get roasted and clowned, and he still gets clowned.
The late 2000s. That had to have had a scarring effect. And I know what that feels like, to have people hate you online for ridiculous or stupid reasons. And I also know from experience that hyper focusing on that treatment and making all of your art or work about your persecution and responding to every little petty issue or disagreement that you might have with internet trolls, that's not the sign of a secure person with better things to do. And I genuinely hope there's a future where Drake figures this out. Maybe does some self-reflection or therapy or something. Because Drake is no longer Jimmy Brooks or biracial Canadian Aubrey that gets roasted by the whole of hip hop culture for a decade and a half. He is the biggest figure in the game. Drake won. He won. But you wouldn't know it from his music or behavior, would you? And at a certain point, I hope there's a shift and he figures that out.
He won't. It's too late.
I'm Feet the Signifier, and this has been Light Work.
He won't figure it out, bruv. I don't think he'll figure it out. We're gonna get an album a year and a half from now, where Drake talks about the problems that he was having with his stomach.
Why does Sizzle like this man?